The crimson sun dipped below the jagged horizon of Kepler 186f, casting long, eerie shadows across the habitation zone. Life on this distant exoplanet was a constant struggle. Generations had passed since the great exodus from Earth, yet the survivors still carried the weight of that loss. Captain Eris Thorne stood on the command deck of the Dauntless, his gaze fixed on the alien landscape. He was a man weathered by hardship, his face etched with the stories of countless supply runs and skirmishes with the planet's hostile fauna. The stories of Earth, a paradise lost, felt more like a myth than a memory. "Captain," Jax's voice crackled over the comms, jolting Eris from his reverie. "We've got something unusual." A faint signal, emanating from the direction of Earth. Eris' blood ran cold. Earth. The very name was whispered with a mix of reverence and sorrow. He turned to face the comms station, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. Impossible. Earth was lost centuries ago. Nothing could have survived. Jax shrugged, his fingers flying across the console. "That's what I thought too, sir. But the signal's there, buried deep in the static. It's fragmented, weak, but definitely artificial." Eris knew he had to consult Dr. Elena Vance. Elena was the colony's resident xenoarchaeologist, a brilliant but eccentric woman with an insatiable curiosity for humanity's past. She had dedicated her life to piecing together the fragments of Earth's history, driven by an almost fanatical belief that the answers to their future lay hidden in the ruins of their past. Eris found Elena in her cluttered lab, surrounded by holographic displays of ancient Earth cities and artifacts. "Elena," Eris began, "we've detected a signal from Earth." Elena's eyes widened, her face lighting up with an almost childlike excitement. "A signal? From Earth? Eris, this could be it. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Eris was hesitant. A mission to Earth was a dangerous undertaking. The journey was long, resources were scarce, and there was no guarantee of success. But he saw the fire in Elena's eyes, the unwavering hope that burned within her. He knew that if there was even a chance of uncovering the truth about Earth, he had to take it. "All right, Elena," Eris said, his voice filled with determination. "Prepare the Dauntless. We're going to Earth." Elena whooped with joy, throwing her arms around Eris in a rare display of affection. "You won't regret this, Eris. I promise you, this will change everything." As the Dauntless prepared for launch, Eris couldn't shake a sense of unease. He knew they were venturing into the unknown, into a realm of ghosts and forgotten memories. But he also knew that humanity's survival depended on their willingness to explore, to discover, and to never give up hope, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As the ship soared into the inky blackness, Eris looked back at Kepler 186f, a tiny beacon of light in the vast expanse of space. He knew that he was carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire colony on his shoulders, and he wouldn't let them down. The whispers of old Earth were calling, and he was determined to answer. The Dauntless limped into orbit around Earth. It was a graveyard of what once was. Debris fields stretched for kilometers, silent monuments to a lost civilization. Captain Eris Thorne stared out at the desolation, a heavy feeling settling in his stomach. Beside him, Elena Vance trembled with a mixture of awe and grief. The signal they were following led them to a derelict space station, barely clinging to existence amidst the wreckage. "Anything on sensors, Jax?" Eris asked, turning to his engineer. Jax, a wiry man with grease permanently etched into his skin, tapped away at his console. "Station's dead, Captain. No power, no life support. Looks like it's been abandoned for centuries." Eris nodded grimly. "Prepare for boarding. Elena, you're with me. Jax, stay with the ship." They donned their environment suits and made their way to the airlock. As they floated across the void towards the station, Eris couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The station's interior was a labyrinth of twisted metal and flickering emergency lights. Dust motes danced in the beams of their helmet lamps, creating an eerie ethereal atmosphere. Elena moved with a sense of purpose, her eyes scanning every surface, every panel. "This was a research station," she announced, pointing to a series of rusted consoles, probably involved in some kind of weapons development. Eris felt a chill run down his spine. Weapons development on a station orbiting a dying Earth. It didn't bode well. They moved deeper into the station, following the faint signal that had drawn them here. It led them to a sealed-off section, marked with warning signs in a language long forgotten. Eris hesitated, then activated his cutting torch. With a hiss of sparks, the door swung open, revealing a hidden laboratory. Inside, rows of cryogenic pods stood silent, their occupants long since dead. In the center of the room, a single console flickered with life. Elena rushed to it, her fingers flying across the keys. "I'm accessing the logs," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "This is it, Eris. This is what happened to Earth." As the data streamed across the screen, the truth began to emerge. A truth far more horrifying than they could have ever imagined. The final days of Earth were not a simple tale of natural disaster, but a story of desperate measures and monstrous creations. The flickering console revealed a grim tale, Project Chimera. The name echoed through the silent lab, a testament to humanity's hubris and desperation. As the Krill descended upon Earth, the world's scientists, driven by a fierce determination to survive, embarked on a dangerous path. They sought to weaponize evolution itself, splicing alien DNA with human genes to create a biological weapon capable of repelling the invaders. But something went horribly wrong. The initial tests were promising. The engineered organisms, dubbed chimeras, exhibited incredible strength and resilience. They were designed to target krill physiology, disrupting their biological processes and rendering them harmless. But the chimeras proved too adaptable, too unpredictable. They mutated rapidly, spreading beyond their intended targets, infecting not only the krill but also the human population. The resulting plague, the Genesis Plague, was unlike anything the world had ever seen. It ravaged cities, turning people into monstrous creatures, twisted parodies of their former selves. The krill invasion, initially a threat to humanity's existence, became a secondary concern as the plague spread uncontrollably. Earth's governments, desperate to contain the outbreak, resorted to extreme measures. They quarantined entire cities, unleashed devastating weapons, and ultimately sealed their own fate. As the plague consumed the planet, a small group of survivors managed to escape, carrying with them the knowledge of Project Chimera and the horrors it unleashed. They fled to the stars, seeking refuge on distant worlds, hoping to rebuild what had been lost. But the shadow of Earth, the memory of the Genesis Plague, haunted them still. Eris felt a cold dread creep over him as he absorbed the data. The idyllic image of Earth he had always carried in his heart shattered, replaced by a vision of chaos and destruction. Elena, her face pale and drawn, turned to him. "We have to warn Kepler 186f, she said, her voice barely a whisper. "The krill are coming, and they're not the only threat we face. The Genesis Plague, it could still be out there." Eris nodded grimly. He knew what he had to do. They had to return to Kepler 186f to prepare the colony for the coming storm. But he also knew that the truth about Earth would change everything. The hope that had sustained them for so long would be replaced by fear and uncertainty. The future of humanity hung in the balance, threatened not only by an alien invasion, but by the sins of their past. Back on Kepler 186f, Counselor Valerius paced anxiously in his office. Reports of strange energy signatures in the Earth system had reached him, and he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. When Eris and Elena finally returned, their faces grim and their voices filled with urgency, Valerius knew that his worst fears had been confirmed. Eris recounted their findings: the discovery of the signal, the derelict station, and the horrifying truth about Project Chimera. Valerius listened in stunned silence, his face growing paler with each word. When Eris finished, he slumped back in his chair, his head in his hands. "The Genesis plague," he murmured. "I've heard whispers of it, stories passed down through the generations, but I never believed it was real." Eris nodded. "It's real, Counselor. And the Krill are coming. We have to prepare. We have to find a way to protect ourselves." Valerius looked up, his eyes filled with despair. "Protect ourselves? Against a plague that destroyed an entire planet? Against an alien invasion? What can we possibly do?" Elena stepped forward, her voice filled with determination. "We can fight," she said. "We can use our ingenuity, our resilience, to find a way to survive. We may not be able to undo the mistakes of the past, but we can learn from them. We can adapt. We can evolve. We are humanity. That's what we do." Eris nodded in agreement. He looked at Valerius, his eyes filled with a newfound resolve. "We have to warn the colony, Counselor. We have to tell them the truth. And then we have to fight. For our survival, for our future, for the memory of Earth." The council meeting concluded, a somber mood settling over Kepler 186f. The news of Earth's fate and the impending Krill invasion spread like wildfire, igniting a mix of fear and determination among the colonists. They knew that the days ahead would be filled with hardship and danger, but they also knew that they were not alone. They were humanity, and they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. The Krill arrived not as conquerors in gleaming warships, but as shadows in the void. Their vessels, bioengineered monstrosities of chitin and sinew, slipped through the darkness, their movements as silent and predatory as deep-sea hunters. They were drawn to Kepler 186, not merely by the presence of human survivors, but by the faint echoes of Project Chimera, a potential weapon to be exploited or destroyed. Krill Overseer Zorgan, a towering figure of obsidian armor and cold calculation, commanded the invasion fleet. He saw humanity as a pestilence, a species that had dared to defy the Krill dominion and unleash biological horrors upon themselves. He was determined to eradicate them completely, to scour Kepler 186 clean and claim it for the Krill Imperium. On Kepler 186f, the colony braced for the inevitable. Eris, hardened by the revelations of Earth's fate, took command of the defense forces. He knew that they were outmatched, outgunned, but he also knew that humanity's survival depended on their ability to fight back. He rallied the colonists, instilling in them a sense of purpose and determination. He spoke of Earth, not as a paradise lost, but as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the consequences of hubris and the importance of unity. He emphasized their ingenuity, their adaptability, their unwavering spirit. He reminded them that they were the descendants of those who had faced unimaginable horrors and survived. They were humanity, and they would not surrender. The Krill assault began with a rain of biomissiles, designed to unleash localized outbreaks of mutated flora and fauna. The colony's defenses, hastily constructed energy shields, and repurposed mining equipment, struggled to contain the onslaught. Eris led the defense from the command center, a repurposed hydroponics dome, his face illuminated by the flickering holographic displays. He barked orders, coordinating the deployment of troops and resources, desperately trying to hold the line. Elena, working alongside him, analyzed the Krill weaponry, searching for weaknesses, for any advantage they could exploit. She was driven by a fierce determination to prevent Kepler 186 from suffering the same fate as Earth. She pored over the schematics, her mind racing, her hands flying across the console. As the Krill forces breached the outer defenses, the battle moved into the habitation zone. Colonists, armed with repurposed mining tools and makeshift weapons, fought bravely against the alien invaders. The streets became a chaotic melee of energy blasts and guttural roars. Eris, leading a squad of veteran fighters, moved from one hotspot to another, bolstering morale and coordinating the resistance. He fought with a grim determination, his every action fueled by a burning desire to protect the colony, to ensure that humanity had a future. Amidst the chaos, a young woman named Kira emerged as a symbol of hope. She was a scavenger, a survivor who had grown up in the harsh wilderness of Kepler 186f. She possessed a natural immunity to many of the planet's indigenous pathogens, a resilience that had allowed her to thrive where others had perished. As the krill bioweapons spread through the colony, Kira discovered that she was also immune to the initial strains of the Genesis plague. Her blood contained antibodies that neutralized the mutated organisms, preventing them from taking hold. News of Kira's immunity spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope amidst the darkness. Eris, recognizing the potential of her unique physiology, ordered that she be brought to Elena's lab. He saw in her not only a symbol of hope, but a weapon, a key to unlocking a cure for the Genesis plague and turning the tide against the krill. The battle for Kepler 186 had only just begun, but with the discovery of Kira, humanity had found a glimmer of hope in the face of annihilation. The krill invasion force pressed their assault. Overseer Zorgan grew impatient with the pace of the conquest. He ordered a full-scale attack on the colony's central command, hoping to crush the human resistance and secure the planet. Eris prepared for the final stand, knowing that the fate of Kepler 186f, and perhaps the future of humanity, rested on their shoulders.